Howdy, Snuck. Oh, that's always unfortunate when you, It's silly, because, like, you click on this mineral patch, and your guys are like, alright, I'll go to this. Like, no! Um, I want to see how much that actually affected you. So the general rule of seeing whether your split was perfect or not is you start this SCV, you should have enough money to make the next SCV when this one is done. So, yeah, it was like a 6-second delay. That's always sad. I don't think it makes a huge difference, but it makes me cry. So you scout no gas. This should make you feel safe until about 8 minutes. You're gonna no gas fast expand in TVZ. I don't know. I don't remember what builds you've been using, but I don't know about the no gas fast expand. The no gas fast expand in TVZ is meant to be done in conjunction with early marine pressure. But you in order to do reasonable early marine pressure, you need to get that second racks a lot quicker. Oh, lift it, no, whatever. This is really annoying. But the cool thing is, in the face of this annoyingness, you're not falling behind on workers. It's 6 minutes and you have 24, so great job. I mean, you're not mining, and that's bad. Oh, and this mule is idle the whole time too. Oh, this is a really unfortunate start. And I mean, I don't think it was your build that caused this. It was just kind of bad luck. You got a couple of lings in, but you had a bunker, you had a wall in, you had what you needed to have to resist that early pressure. So nothing to say about that. Nothing really to say about that. All right, and just like we just saw from Tony El Chino, oh, no, actually, you're not going to open 3 racks. You're opening 2 racks into a factory, which I'm happy about. I'm not really still sure what your plan is going to be for this game. But we'll see, we'll see. The first thing to note is whether or not the Zerg has a reasonable economy. And it looks like it... yeah, the Zerg... Your opponent Zerg is so much better than the opponent Zergs we just saw Tony face. This is because you're playing against platinum level people, man. If you got to play against people like in the previous game that only made like 1 worker, then you would feel a lot better in your TVZs, man. Because he's got 72 workers at 10 minutes, and this is so bad. Bad news. I mean, like, bad news bears. So he keeps doing these little run-bys that are convincing him that you don't have an army, right? Because you don't. So it looks like your build is geared around having a certain level of tech before you make your first unit, and that's not scary to the Zerg. So he's going to fully saturate all 3 of his bases before you're even anywhere near ready to push out. So it's 11 minutes in. You only have $1,000 of army. You have basically no army whatsoever. You got 52 workers, which is full saturation on 2 base, which is fine. But his economy is so much bigger than yours now, and you can't do anything about it. You can't take your own third because you don't have an army to defend it, and you can't knock down his third because you don't have an army to knock down his third. So in TVZ, if you're going to have almost no army in the early game, you're just going to have to resign yourself to losing a lot of games. Because there's 2 ways for Zerg to kill someone who doesn't make an early army. This is the first. He can get 72 workers at 10 minutes and just crush you on economy alone. And the second is all-ins. I mean, if you don't have an early army, an all-in is going to kill you. And those are the 2 different things that Zerg likes to do. Playing in the middle of the road is not very Zerg-like. Zergs like to min-max. They like to do all economy or all army, but nothing in the middle. And, I mean, some Zergs play down the middle of the road, but not very many. Most of them do this. And so you're going to lose a ton of TVZs doing this middle of the road. I mean, not even middle of the road. This it's like, I want to call it greedy because it's very greedy not to get an army, but it's usually greedy implies a huge economy, and you didn't get a very large economy, like a big economic early lead. So you had 44 workers at 10 minutes, which is great. That's right on benchmark. That's exactly what you want to have, but your income is like 1,000. He kept making you pull guys off of mining. You moved 5 guys over and then moved them back. That's funny. Um, but mostly you're just making buildings and not using them. You want to make one building and then use it constantly, and then make a second building and use them both constantly, and make a third building and use all three constantly. Like, every building you have should constantly be in use. And because if you go buildings first, army second, you'll never catch up, you know? It's like any efficient build is going to always not have any idle buildings, and all of your buildings were idle all of the time. It's like a completely idle building based build. And I think this is just a symptom of not having a build planned. Like, you've planned out several pretty good TVZ builds that are oriented around having having a reasonably big army at 10 minutes, a pretty big economy at 10 minutes, and making it, a 10 or 12 minute push. And you've used a lot of them, and a lot of them have failed to work. And so you're like, well, if that doesn't work, then I need to do something else. But instead, after the third time of planning a new build and trying it out and having it not work, I guess you just kind of gave up on planning a build at all. And you're like, I'm just going to, wing it. I'm going to make random stuff at random times and hope it works out. And that doesn't work even more severely than having a planned build. So the planned build, sometimes the execution of it is poor, and so it doesn't work. And sometimes it's just a build that has a really strong Zerg counter, and the Zerg figures out the counter and does it, and that's the problem. But with an unplanned build, the problem is just the fact that you didn't have a planned build. So we're seeing that he still has a massively bigger economy than you. You're making a tiny smattering of Marines and tanks with Hellions, but your army at 15 minutes is 5,000. That's not very good. So now your third is down here, but it's pretty undersaturated, and your main is a little bit oversaturated. That's okay. 16 minutes to only have 65 workers. That's kind of bad. You want to be capping out at 72 at about 12.5 minutes. But look at his income, man. 87 workers, $3,400 of income, and you have 2,000. So he's almost double your income, and he's been passively sitting by with almost double your income all game, with no threat from you of doing anything. And this is a style that will never work in TVZ. You can't. It's like a combination of the concept of a macro TVZ style and I don't know. You're not preventing him from getting as much money as he wants, and you're not getting a bunch of money yourself. Those are the two main features of a macro style: is you get more money than your opponent by reducing his income and increasing your income. And if you don't do either of those, then it's not really a macro style, even though it is. So now you have about 200 unit space of mostly siege tanks with a couple of Hellions and a smattering of unupgraded Marines. It's weird that this is almost 200 unit space and I can't find an army anywhere. These guys are idle. So it took you 19 minutes to max out instead of 15, and most of that's because of these guys, these idle workers in your main. Looks like upgrades, no upgrades. What's going on here? Do you have +3 armor on your... Yeah, you're getting +3 vehicle armor. I don't know what's going on there. So this heavy tank count is good again in the first like 14 minutes, but once he gets broodlords, it's not good anymore. And every Zerg is going to get broodlords either at 16 minutes if he's rushing or 18 minutes if he's not. And it's 20 minutes in, so clearly he's going to have broodlords, and then the broodlords are just going to kill you. And I don't think you were surprised by this loss. I think you're having a lot of trouble in TVZ lately, and it's like, okay, so I did this and it didn't work. I didn't expect it to work, so be it, kind of thing, So what this comes down to is a passivity thing. It's the same with TVP. You can't really beat a Protoss if you let him do whatever he wants for 20 minutes, right? And it's the same with Zerg. If you just say, hey Zerg, do whatever you want for 20 minutes and then we're going to fight, you're guaranteed to lose that game. You know, there's no build you can go for that can sit back for 20 minutes and then engage and still win, because the Zerg's economy grows exponentially, whereas your economy grows, you know, whenever you think that it's safe to put down another planetary. And so he's just going to get a giant economic lead. And when a Zerg has a giant economic lead and you guys are both on 200 unit space, the Zerg 200 unit space is $10,000 plus upgrades. Whereas a Terran 200 unit space army, fast forward, do you ever hit 200 units? Let's see. More. Alright, 190. So your 190 unit space army is going to be 7,800. So, you know, his maxed army is much bigger than yours. That's just the way it is. Terran, it's not Terran that has this problem specifically, but Hellions, Marines, Marauders, and SCVs are all $50 per unit space. They're all terrible at maxed army size stuff. And this is why for a long time Terrans were opening infantry, but then as they approached 200 unit space, they do drops to suicide off their Marines and Marauders and trade them for Ghosts, and trade them for Thors, and trade them for tanks, and trade them for battle cruisers, and trade them for Vikings, and trade them for medevacs, and trade them for Ravens, and trade them for Banshees, because those other units are good in a maxed army, whereas Hellions and Marines and Marauders are bad. Obviously, you can't win without Hellions. I'm not saying don't get them. I'm just saying that you want to fight before 200 unit space, because at 200 unit space, Zerg has this huge, insurmountable advantage. So, honestly, this was just all about the first 10 minutes. Even though no fights happened, the game was over when he got this. Let's see. When these next 6 drones pop, the game is going to end. Poof. Oh, come on. There we go. Now the game's over. So, he has only $900 of army at 10 minutes, right? If you'd made a $4,000 army push, if you'd made a $3,500 army push, if you'd made a $3,000 army push, you're guaranteed to knock down his third. You know? Like, he can only be this greedy because he's not afraid of you, because he keeps scouting and finding that you have no units. So you gotta punish greed or be greedy yourself. Those are the only two options. You know, he has no army, so he has 72 units. I mean, 72 drones. But because he has no army, you can get a third. He can't stop you either. You know, like his greed is the right kind of greed, whereas your greed is the wrong kind of greed. You know, you're saying I'm not going to get an army, but I'm also not going to get an economy. He's saying I'm not going to get an army, and I am going to get an economy. You know, like you were both decided to be greedy at the beginning of the game, and he just had more balls. He decided to be so greedy that he's doomed if you attack him, whereas you decided to be kind of, you know, I don't know, infrastructurally greedy or something. Very, very weird. So yeah, his game was over at this point. So I don't know. I don't know what to tell you. Like, we've talked before about the benchmarks for 10 minutes. 44 drones, I mean, workers you hit. That's great. You hit that benchmark. But all of your money's in your bank. Your army size is tiny. You need to either be making an early push to prevent him from being crazy greedy, or you need to be getting your third ridiculously early and fully saturating all 3 bases at 12 minutes. And because that second one is so hard in TVZ, because, you know, he can crush your third unless you like heavily mech to defend it or something. Most people opt for the first one, you know, make the attack before he fully saturates his third. But they're both valid. If you can get your third up and defend it, then you'll be on even footing, because if he has 72 workers and you have 72 workers with 3 mules or 2 mules, you're going to be ahead. So I don't know. There's not a lot of specific advice to this game to do this build better, because this build itself is not valid. It doesn't. There's no army involved, and there's no third base involved, and you need one or the other. So yeah. Yeah. That's funny that that replay was called TVZ Mech Sucks, but you didn't mech. I mean, you made tanks and Hellions, sure, but that's not really meching, is it? I mean, I don't know. I kind of want to... Where is it? Let's say day 9 Goody TVZ Mech daily. Dun, 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 dun. 378.
On a super high performance car like the V, the larger grille openings feed more air to the supercharged engine and Brembo brakes, which is good, because as stunning as it looks on the outside, it's even better on the inside.
Move out with the Marines. Try to pick off Overlord already.
Okay.
Aliens and
11
Zerg.
minutes. I wish
What
that
I want to full some kind of
the game so I can
look
check
at
what
this
time it is.
attack. I want you to look at
Right,
this.
here we go. This, right? 11 minutes attacking the Zerg. That's what this daily was about, was that if you don't attack the Zerg at a reasonable time and you don't take a third at a reasonable time, then the Terran is, I mean, the Zerg is just going to have 72 workers at 10 minutes, and then it's like impossible to catch up from there. So when you want to mech, you're really going to be focusing around having a high tank count and lots of mech units as the game progresses, like towards 12 and 14 minutes. But if you wait until then before you have anything, then the Zerg can just go all economy for 10 minutes and then all army until your attack, and then have a big enough army to crush you. You really got to force him to mix army and drones or die because he chose not to, right? You need to kill him when he's greedy. That's basically what that's about. I don't remember where. I think it's probably the 3rd section or something that he actually shows